I don't think I've ever seen a character make a dragon call him daddy, but that's basically what happened. Now, of course, we're dealing with Noor, so misunderstandings. But I totally expected he was going to one-shot the dragon, because they basically do this maneuver with all these spells to launch him, right? He's like, yeah, just hit the sword, because the sword won't break. And I thought he was going to come in and just swing on that dragon, One Punch Man style. And when he pushed him back, I was like, oh, we're actually going to get a fight. And to his defense, he actually did parry for once. For a character who thinks he parries, often he's really just swinging a sword and attacking, but, you know, that's a issue I've already brought up, but it's funny nonetheless. He was actually parrying this dragon, and the idea that he acknowledged it was a dragon. Now, okay, listen. The fact that our character acknowledged something as what it was is actually huge, because this is the guy who will look at the dragon from the previous episode and think it's a frog. So the fact that he's like, oh, when I was a kid, I used to have my dad tell me about dragons. Heroes kill dragons. So the fact that he looked at that without any misunderstandings, that be a dragon. But he is an idiot. And the fact that he broke off, I think it was one of the claws, and that dragon submitted. The dragon, because dragons are prideful creatures, and the fact that this man showed no fear, bowed down to him. And what does our boy do? Yeah, I guess I'm not a hero after all, because he didn't kill the dragon, because heroes kill dragons, and the fact that the dragon doesn't want to fight him, probably in his mind means he's not worth the fight. He's an idiot, but if you got to episode 8 of I Parry Everything and didn't expect him to be an idiot, you insane. For a moment, I was questioning if we were going to get an Osen Newbie Adventure moment where he would acknowledge more, but I will take the W when I get it. He acknowledged this thing was a damn dragon, and without realizing it, the dragon called him daddy. I have full live reactions over on Patreon. If you want to see my full and good thought to any of these I Parry Everything episodes, you know it's going to be over there exclusively. So, first things first, I am actually blown away by the production of this episode. Now, not that this is the best produced episode of the season, but when we saw the dragon last week as a tease, it was a very big character model. And as we know, dragons in anime typically go 3D CGI, and it can be quite jarring and distracting. I think there was 2, maybe 3, but I think it was only 2 moments that the dragon was ever 3D, and it was for the most basic shot. It was like just the dragon floating in the air doing something. There was one where it was kind of fuzzy in the distance 3D, and I think it was literally the first shot we see of the dragon. The rest was all pure hand-drawn. And what they did was very clever. It was a lot of close-up shots, which you like, because this dragon's the size of goddamn Manhattan. It's a big beast, so you don't have to have the whole thing on screen, and it allowed for it to just actually come across as detailed, but well put together. I don't think many people are going to say I Parry Everything is the best produced show of the season, but anyone who says I Parry Everything is ugly or underproduced, I think are insane or exaggerating. Sharp and very consistent art direction. You know, obviously the production's holding up strong, otherwise we would have seen a lot more BS in this episode, but it just allowed it to come across as intimidating. And, you know, even though I was expecting he was going to one-shot that dragon, he just kind of boinked it. It was kind of like, he just like had a club and he boinked the dog. I'm like, what the how do you do that? And then just the fact that he, like, the king was literally ready to die, to sacrifice himself, this one-shot KO. And our boy comes in and boinks it. And the idea that he actually gets to fight it, and he gets to parry it. You know, the thing about it is when they brought this up, I didn't think much of it, like, before this, but I was like, oh yeah, that is a thing. Dragons in, like, stories are usually considered prideful, right? Like, they want, you know, a lot of dragons, they don't need treasure and sparkly goods, but they do so because that's what they want. And the idea that it got more and more pissed off, the more Noor was just existing, and because he didn't look phased, like he was pretty much just like, oh, dragon, and then just did like what the like what, nothing goes on inside his head sometimes, man. And like he actually acknowledged so much, and I think a part of it is that he was actually thinking about things a lot more than normal. He recognized the sword was way too durable, which is actually huge. We're dealing with a character who was given Excalibur by the king. And the only reason he accepted Excalibur was the king basically kind of like shrugged like, oh yeah, it's just a sword I randomly picked up off the street. He's like, okay, if it's a junk sword, I could take that. Idiot, but still, you know, I digress. The fact that he actually was like, man, I keep swinging this sword because he recognizes, like, he was thrown at lightning speeds and has been using that sword against a dragon, something he recognizes is a dragon, and literally is saying, like, yeah, that sword's durable. As the dragon's thinking, how am I getting hurt? What the And a part of it is due to the sword, because otherwise, if it wasn't a sword that could keep up with dragon scales and stuff, it would break. But it's also because of his insane skills himself. The fact that he not only recognized it was a dragon, no misunderstandings, recognized his sword is actually more than just a shovel to freaking clean the gutters with, is huge. Like, this is actually huge development, but of course, I guess I'm not a hero, because he didn't defeat the dragon in the way that he expects. Now, there's gonna be some people bashing their heads against their keyboards saying, how could he? How could he not? But, like, this is brilliant. One of the funnier moments, though, that's gonna go underappreciated is, like, the first couple of minutes of this episode when he's, like, looking off in the distance, and he's like, oh, so that's a dragon. I've never seen a dragon before. Cut to behind them, and they're like, what? But you just killed a dragon in the previous episode. But they don't say anything because they're flabbergasted. They have no idea what to do with this character. But what an incredible episode. I would easily say episode 8 is my personal favorite out of all of them. And I know the past couple have pretty much been at that point for me personally. But this was one of, I think, if not the most consistent giant-ass dragon fights I've seen in years. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Sure, they did a lot of special maneuvers, like, you know, not always focusing on the full body and maybe a lot of close-up shots, but it all looked good, and it actually gave me impact and stakes. And I mean, when the laser blasts were going off, like, they knew what they were doing. Just incredibly fun, action-packed, and actually did show growth for Noor, for actually acknowledging more than we're used to, but he's special. He wouldn't have been with all the other kids if he had a school life, let's just put it like that. But we love him. He's a precious cinnamon roll that's an absolute idiot. And when he gets the red carpet rolled out for him for saving the day, he's going to be very confused. He's going to be so freaking confused when this dragon follows him around like a puppy. I'm already ready for the bullshittery. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode, and how surprised were you that he didn't one-shot the dragon? I really thought he was. Not because, like, up to this point he really hasn't done that, but when you throw him at such speed and velocity, I was like, oh shit, like, initially, I'm thinking he's just gonna, like, pierce through that thing. It wasn't until, like, 5 minutes later that we realized that, oh no, then he just starts running and doing his normal maneuvers, but I digress. Let me know your feelings down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alrighty, so today we got Mobita, Feather, The Lyrical G, Andrew Stevens, Himi Meow Toga, Misto Dreamer, Red Eye, and we also have Isaac Sightling. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you'll have a good one.